If they ever link me to this, remember I was approached, not involved.
Good morning. Today we are here in New York to announce a historic arrest across a wide-sweeping criminal enterprise that envelops both the NBA and La Casa Nostra.
The biggest scandal the NBA has ever faced is exploding right now, and LeBron is caught right in the center of it. We're not talking hundreds, not thousands, but tens of millions on the line. Arrests are already going down. And yes, Hall of Famers, coaches, and active players are in cuffs. The FBI just dropped a bombshell, revealing that 4 mafia families have been secretly pulling NBA strings for years. This could flip the league upside down forever. It all started quietly, just another Thursday morning, until it wasn't. Across the country, people woke up to the sound of federal agents pounding on doors. Within hours, news networks went wild. A nationwide FBI raid had just exposed the NBA's darkest secrets.
And the fraud is mind-boggling. It's not hundreds of dollars. It's not thousands of dollars. It's not tens of thousands of dollars. It's not even millions of dollars. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars in fraud and theft and robbery.
And this wasn't some small sting. It was one of the biggest federal takedowns in sports history, hitting 11 states at once. The operation's name, so crazy it sounds like fiction. Operation Nothing But Net. By midday, over 30 suspects were in custody, including faces you've seen on ESPN panels. Behind it all were 2 insane schemes. First, a massive insider betting network. Not your fantasy stuff, but deep, coded, and illegal. The second, a rigged high-stakes poker ring connected to 4 infamous crime families. When indictments hit, it wasn't just random bookies. It was names that shook the league to its core. The documents had names that made NBA fans freeze mid-scroll. When those indictments dropped, the FBI didn't just upload a PDF. They held a massive press conference in New York. Agents rolled out boxes of evidence, stacks of laptops, and more hard drives than a NASA lab. Yeah, it was that serious. The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York revealed a years-long investigation, coordinated across 11 states and leading to 31 arrests. But then came the bombshell moment that broke the entire basketball internet. FBI Director Kash Patel stepped up to the mic, stared into the cameras, and said 3 names no one ever imagined hearing alongside the mafia.
But as you now know, individuals such as Chauncey Billups, Damon Jones, and Terry Rozier were taken into custody today. Former, current NBA players and coaches.
The NBA world erupted. Patel's words hit like a hammer. The room went silent. This wasn't just about gambling anymore. It was deep. The schemes, an insider betting ring, and a rigged high-stakes poker network tied to 4 of New York's most infamous crime families. The FBI called it spot fixing. Not throwing full games, but tweaking moments that quietly shifted betting lines, a sudden substitution here, a fake ankle issue there, small moves that made huge money. And the scariest part? The I said this wasn't a weekend hustle. It was years in the making. The director himself taking charge showed how massive this really is. The NBA has never faced something this dark before. They had been tracking this operation since 2020, from wiretaps to crypto trails and fake offshore accounts. Every breadcrumb was there. By the time the press conference ended, one thing was clear. This wasn't just a scandal. This could destroy the NBA's reputation entirely. And right at the center of it were 3 names that once meant loyalty, hustle, and brotherhood, now tied to fraud, betting, and mafia activity.
Not only did we crack into the fraud that these perpetrators committed on the grand stage of the NBA, but we also entered and executed a system of justice against.
But what exactly did each of them do? That's where things turned dark. Chauncey Billups was the first name that made jaws drop. He was basketball royalty, the captain of that legendary 2004 Pistons team that shocked the world by beating the Lakers. Calm under pressure, Mr. Big Shot was the guy you trusted when everything was falling apart. Players respected him, analysts praised him, and fans saw him as a symbol of leadership done right. After retirement, he became the perfect bridge between eras, from ESPN analyst to head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers. So when word spread that Chauncey had been arrested in Portland, the reaction was pure disbelief. This was the man who preached accountability, who mentored young players about integrity and discipline. Hearing that he'd been caught up in poker games tied to organized crime felt unreal, like a movie twist gone too far. Court documents revealed he participated in a string of facilitated high-stakes events, a thinly veiled phrase for mafia-run poker tables. Fans were speechless. It wasn't just about the crime. It was about the fall from grace. And then came Terry Rozier, a player whose story always seemed larger than basketball itself, now tangled in the same nightmare that had already shaken the league to its core. Terry Rozier came from nothing.
La Casa Nostra, to include the Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese crime families.
Straight out of a tough neighborhood in Youngstown, Ohio. His dad was behind bars, his mom worked nonstop just to keep the lights on. He made it to the NBA through pure grit, that nothing given, everything earned mentality that fans respected instantly. Back in 2018, when Kyrie went down and Rozier stepped up in the playoffs, dropping nearly 17 a night and leading Boston deep, he became a star. Scary Terry shirts were everywhere. Fans chanted his name like a hero. When Charlotte handed him that big contract, it felt like every underdog had finally won. So when news broke that the FBI arrested him in Orlando for allegedly leaking lineup and injury info for betting purposes, it hit the league like a gut punch. Then came Damon Jones, the glue guy, the shooter, the voice everyone in the locker room trusted. He wasn't a superstar, but he was everywhere through the 2000s. 10 teams in 11 years, reliable, respected, and remembered for that clutch playoff 3 for Cleveland in 2005. The moment LeBron never forgot. After retirement, Jones found new life as a coach and even became LeBron's personal shooting mentor. They weren't just co-workers, they were family. So when his name surfaced in the indictment, the story turned personal.
I can't believe he'd do this after everything. After all the trust I gave him.
Documents linked him to both insider leaks and poker games funneled through mafia-backed money circles. It wasn't just about crimes anymore. It was betrayal. When reporters asked LeBron about Damon, his face said it all. Disbelief, disappointment, and pain. The kind that shows when loyalty gets shattered right in front of you. I can't believe he'd do this after everything. After all the trust I gave him, you could feel LeBron's pain in every word. In a world where loyalty defines everything, betrayal like that cuts deeper than any loss on the court. What makes this story hit so hard isn't just that these men were named. It's who they were before all this. Billups was the mentor. Rozier was the fighter. Jones was the brother. 3 completely different paths, 3 generations, all crashing at the same point where fame, trust, and organized crime collided. That's why people are calling this the darkest chapter in modern NBA history. It's not just about arrests or legal chaos. It's about what these men once stood for. They represented the best of the game, and now they're accused of embodying its worst. If they're convicted, this won't just be a scandal. It'll be a turning point. For the first time in decades, the NBA will have to ask how deep this corruption really runs.
And in at least one instance, they got their information by threatening a current player, Porter, because of his pre-existing gambling debts.
And whether it can even survive it. But before anyone thinks this was the first sign of trouble, the warning lights had been flashing for a while. A year before the bust, in April 2024, the league had its first major red flag. Toronto Raptors forward Jontay Porter, Michael Porter Jr.'s younger brother, became the first NBA player in over 50 years to receive a lifetime ban. Why? He allegedly turned prop bets into his own side hustle. Investigators found he'd been leaking insider details about his health, whether he was playing, how many minutes he'd logged, and placing bets through others based on that info. Things got suspicious on March 20th when he checked out of a game after just 3 minutes, claiming he was sick. That was the first domino, and nobody realized how fast the rest would fall. Right after that, one bettor dropped $80,000 on a parlay predicting Porter would underperform, and of course, it hit perfectly.
The scheme targeted victims known as, quote, fish, who were often lured to participate in these rigged games by the chance to play alongside former professional athletes who were known as, quote, face cards.
The FBI later found out Porter was deep in debt to dangerous gambling operators, the kind of people you never want to owe. It wasn't just money anymore. There were threats, coercion, and nonstop pressure. The same kind of dark ecosystem now blowing up in this new scandal. And here's where things got uncomfortable for the NBA. Around that time, the league had gone all in on gambling partnerships. DraftKings, FanDuel, Caesars, you name it. There were live odds during games, betting segments on air, and even sports books inside arenas. The same organization banning players for gambling was cashing massive checks from the gambling industry. The hypocrisy was unreal. After Porter's lifetime ban, Commissioner Adam Silver gave a polished zero-tolerance speech. But even he admitted it was a wake-up call. He pushed for stricter rules while still defending the league's betting deals, calling them modern fan engagement. Fast forward to this latest scandal, and that phrase sounds more like open season. Court filings from the current investigation suggest Porter's old debt network overlaps with the same gambling circles being raided now.
The so-called face cards included the defendant Chauncey Billups, who at the time of the scheme was a former NBA player and is currently the head coach of the Portland Trail Blazers.
That means this mafia web had its fingerprints on the league long before anyone realized. Now, by the time Chauncey Billups was placed on leave and Tiago Splitter was named interim coach in Portland, it was clear this wasn't just about a few bad actors. The conversation had shifted from isolated corruption to something systemic. What started as one desperate player trying to cover his debts might have been the blueprint for something far darker, the first crack in the foundation of a league now drowning in its own shadow. Porter was the test case. What we're seeing now is the full-scale sequel, and the stakes are way higher. While the public argued about Porter, the FBI was already watching, listening, and tracking everything in silence. They stayed patient, methodical, 2 steps always ahead the entire time. This wasn't a last-minute scramble. They knew exactly what was coming and when. They named it Operation Nothing But Net, and the scale sounds unreal for a sports case. Agents were spread across 11 states, from New York to Nevada, stitching together what they called one of the most complex financial and integrity probes in modern sports history. This wasn't just suits reading paperwork. It was a full-on hunt. Reports say agents logged thousands of surveillance hours, used hidden cameras, ran wiretaps, traced burner phones, and even tailed suspects sneaking out of private Vegas poker rooms. They captured over 3,000 informant calls, some from inside NBA circles, players' assistants, and even front office staff quietly feeding intel to avoid federal heat. The FBI's cyber unit traced crypto flows inside the betting networks to connect offshore books, mafia-backed accounts, and encrypted wallets tied to US-based consultants.
But I'm not going to sit here and be like, man, y'all partner with a gambling company, you open a can of worms. Like, that can of worms can be open with partnering with gambling companies or not.
Those consultants were the middlemen, turning locker room whispers into multi-million-dollar betting plays with surgical timing. What the FBI built wasn't just a case, it was a blueprint with receipts. Every message, every payment, every suspicious injury tweak had a timestamp and a chain of custody ready for court. They weren't chasing a few gamblers. They wanted an airtight federal hammer that could beat appeals, elite defense teams, and public blowback. Paper trails don't show the chaos, so to really grasp how this machine ran, we've got to break down the playbook step by step and expose how the schemes actually operated. The feds broke the operation into 2 powerful machines running side by side: the insider betting network and the underground poker empire. Both fed each other money, intel, and protection, like a business partnership straight from hell. The insider betting ring was the cleaner one, running quietly between late 2022 and early 2024. 7 teams showed suspicious betting spikes that matched internal leaks almost perfectly. The Hornets, Magic, Trailblazers, Lakers, Raptors, Cavaliers, and Heat. Every time a confidential team report was filed, betting lines shifted seconds later. Then came the darker side, the poker ring. It ran from 2019 to 2025, disguised as high-end celebrity poker nights. But behind the luxury scenes, it was pure organized crime. These weren't friendly games. The tables had hidden cameras, X-ray sensors, and rigged automatic shufflers that could be remotely controlled mid-deal. Every location oozed money and power. Hamptons mansions, Vegas sky suites, Miami penthouses, and Manhattan hotel ballrooms. The organizers even had a name for their setup: the face card table. NBA players were the face cards, used as bait. Their star power pulled in wealthy businessmen and investors known as the Fish, desperate to sit at the same table as their heroes. What those men didn't know was that the entire setup was a trap. Every chip, every card, every move carefully planned. According to federal documents, Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones were allegedly used as the public faces, the trusted names that made the operation look legitimate. But under the lights and laughter, millions were moving through hands connected to the mafia, and the NBA's darkest secret was hiding in plain sight. Once the buy-ins hit the table, the house was already winning. They skimmed 10 to 20% from every pot, pocketing millions under the disguise of event fees. By the time the feds began tracing the money, over $7 million in victim losses and nearly $20 million in laundered funds were confirmed, hidden through shell companies, crypto exchanges, and fake charity fronts. And the muscle behind it all came straight from New York's darkest bloodlines: Bonanno, Gambino, Genovese, and Lucchese. This poker empire was mafia-backed from day one, with enforcers handling disputes the old-school way. Court filings revealed threats, smashed property, and even an armed robbery where a losing player was cornered in a Manhattan parking garage and stripped of $500,000 in jewelry. That was the moment the FBI realized this wasn't just gambling. It was an organized criminal infrastructure. The craziest part, both operations worked together. The poker ring generated dirty money. The insider betting network cleaned it. Win on the court, lose at the table. On paper, it all balanced perfectly. Elegant, in the most corrupt way possible. Federal prosecutors didn't hold back. The indictments listed wire fraud, conspiracy, money laundering, illegal gambling, and obstruction of justice. Each charge carrying years, sometimes decades of prison time. In total, more than 30 defendants were named across multiple indictments, with the NBA's own Chauncey Billups, Terry Rozier, and Damon Jones sitting at the very center. If convicted on the top charges, some of these men could be facing 20 to 30 years behind bars, a punishment that could scar the NBA forever and mark the end of an era built on loyalty, fame, and illusion. This wasn't just about punishing a few players. It was about saving the NBA's image, maybe even its future. Because when scandals like this hit, it's not just reputations that crumble. It's the foundation of trust, holding the whole league together. And it makes everyone wonder, just how deep do crime and sports really connect? History already gave us the warning signs. In 1919, the infamous Black Sox scandal saw 8 Chicago White Sox players accused of taking bribes to throw the World Series. That disaster nearly killed baseball. Fans were outraged, sponsors fled, and the league had to invent the role of commissioner just to restore faith in the game. Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis took over like a one-man wrecking crew and rebuilt baseball's credibility from scratch. Nearly a century later, the NBA faced its own nightmare, the Tim Donaghy scandal. A referee betting on games he officiated. The man controlling the whistle, calling the fouls, shifting the momentum, had money on the line. That wasn't just corruption, it was betrayal written into the rulebook itself. But the danger goes beyond betting. It's also about influence. Look deeper into basketball's history, and there's always been a dark thread connecting the game to the streets. Take Javaris Crittenton, once a rising guard for the Lakers, later convicted of manslaughter and tied to the Mansfield Crips in Atlanta. His downfall wasn't about point shaving or game fixing. It was about how quickly the wrong people can pull an athlete off track. His story was tragic, but it revealed something uncomfortable. The line between sports, crime, and power has always been thinner than anyone wants to admit. And now, with the FBI dragging the league's biggest names into federal court, that invisible line isn't just blurred, it's been completely crossed. The same pattern shows up again with Zach Randolph and Tony Allen, 2 players whose names appeared in police reports tied to one of America's most infamous street gangs, the Gangster Disciples. And across the ocean, Nikola Pekovic, the Montenegrin powerhouse who once dominated in Minnesota, found his name surfacing in European media, allegedly linked to figures in the Serbian and Montenegrin underworld. When you stack all these stories together, the message becomes hard to ignore. This current scandal isn't just another NBA headline. It's the product of decades of ignored warnings. The sports world kept turning the page, pretending the problem was isolated, until the cracks became too big to hide. And that's what makes this one different. This time, the league isn't just fighting gamblers, referees, or a few bad players. It's staring straight into its own reflection. The corruption isn't outside the game anymore. It's inside the system itself. Reactions came fast and loud. Draymond Green was one of the first to speak up, calling it a tough time for everyone involved, for the league and for the fans. But he made it clear this shouldn't turn into a witch hunt against the NBA's gambling partnerships. Shaquille O'Neal, though, didn't sugarcoat a thing. He called it exactly what it is, saying not all money is good money, and warned the league about losing its soul-chasing profits. Then came Kenny Smith, taking a more thoughtful angle, reminding people that this isn't just about punishment or policy, it's about rebuilding trust. Because after a century of close calls, scandals, and second chances, the NBA might finally be running out of time to fix what's broken. Gambling is an addiction, Kenny Smith said. An addiction doesn't care if you're a player, a coach, or a Hall of Famer. That's what needs to be fixed first. But Charles Barkley wasn't having it. True to form, he cut straight through the noise, calling the entire situation greed. Plain and simple, he said the game had lost its soul, chasing money it didn't need. The fallout came fast and brutal. Overnight, reputations collapsed. Men once seen as leaders, mentors, and heroes were suddenly at the center of one of the darkest scandals in NBA history. The league and the Players Association scrambled to release joint statements promising full cooperation with the FBI and the DOJ, while reminding the public that everyone is innocent until proven guilty. But let's be honest, once the story hit, the internet exploded. Fans were split, debates got heated, and the conversation went beyond legality. It turned moral. Who can you even trust in a locker room anymore? The economic damage came next. Ticket sales dropped immediately. Portland's season opener had nearly 10% of its seats empty. Merchandise took a hit too. Terry Rozier jerseys were down 15% in October alone. And the betting partners, they weren't safe either. Stock prices for major gambling companies fell 3 to 7% as investors panicked over public backlash and regulatory pressure. Now, the NBA faces a crossroads. Stricter federal oversight seems inevitable, possibly even a new agency focused on policing insider betting. Leagues might soon enforce total bans on wagers by players, coaches, and staff, paired with deep financial audits and monitored communications. And those flashy betting integrations during broadcasts, they might vanish next. The cozy, profitable alliance between sports and gambling is being torn apart, replaced by suspicion, fear, and accountability. The NBA built a fortune embracing the betting boom, but in trying to cash in, it might have bet everything, including its integrity. And as this saga winds down, for now, one truth remains impossible to ignore. The NBA will never look the same again. Trust, once shattered, takes years to rebuild. And right now, that trust is hanging by a thread. If this story blew your mind, make sure to like, subscribe, and share. Because this scandal is far from over. The league's darkest secrets are still surfacing, and we'll be here breaking down every shocking twist, every new arrest, and every jaw-dropping update as it drops. So tell us, which part of this scandal stunned you the most? Turn on those notifications, because what's coming next will shake the game even harder.